Alright YouTube, so it has been a few days, but we are back, of course, with some remake content, and we are revisiting the topic of data transfer, one of the burning topics, one of the hot topics when it comes to remake. It's one of the two major questions when it comes to the remake project. Is our stuff going to carry over between games, choices, items, whatever, materia, and how many goddamn games are going to be? Now, we've done a handful of these data transfer videos, and we would not be revisiting the topic unless there's new things to talk about, which of course we have today. So if you've been keeping up with the next-gen conversation, you've probably seen the topic of save transfer between games. More specifically, I think the most popular one is Spider-Man PS4. So if you buy the Ultimate Edition of Miles Morales for the PS5, you get a remastered copy of Spider-Man PS4. But the main topic of conversation surrounding this is that you actually can't transfer your PS4 save to the PS5. But what adds even more confusion to this conversation in regards to the Spider-Man games is that if you buy a PS4 version of Miles Morales and inevitably upgrade to the PS5 version, for whatever reason, you can transfer your save. And I think that's a big part of where the backlash is coming from. For starters, it's cool to get like a quote-unquote free version of Spider-Man PS4, the remastered version, when you buy Miles Morales Ultimate Edition, but you have to start all the way over. This is a massive game, massive open-world game, right? You kind of don't want to do all that again. You would like to kind of carry your progress over. But also, it's like, why does it work with Miles Morales, but not the other game that Miles Morales is built off of? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. And how this all pertains to remake is that, as of right now, and we don't have a definitive answer, but it seems like the consensus for the PS5 is that most games, if not just about all of them, won't have save transfer between PS4 and PS5. And it seems to just be a PS5 thing, because the Series X is going to allow you to bring like 360 saves all the way up to Series X. And the way the remake project is brought into this conversation is that there's going to be a PS5 version of these games at some point, whether that is Part 2 being a PS5 exclusive, or just, the games being PS4 and being brought to the PS5 at some point. And while it seems like the vast majority of us are of the belief that this game is going to come to the PS4, it seems like every time we talk about this, most of the comments are in agreement on that. There still are a handful of people out there, a percentage of people that believe Part 2 is going to be a PS5 exclusive. I don't agree, but at the end of the day, we don't know. It clearly, from a monetary perspective, makes the most sense for Part 2 to come out on PlayStation 4. The console sold like 100 million units. There's a shit ton of players out there. And by the time that Part 2 would come out, there might be a decent amount of PS5s out in the world, but it's not going to be anywhere near 100 million. So just as a business, as an entity trying to make money, it would be extremely, extremely stupid of Square Enix to not release Part 2 on PlayStation 4. But let's say the game does come out on PS5, and it is a PS5 exclusive, and we have the general consensus that saves aren't going to transfer between platforms. Maybe there won't be data transfer at all. On paper, what we talked about in this video so far, it definitely seems like Part 2 would come out on PlayStation 4, but if you look at another big Final Fantasy game coming out, Final Fantasy 16, that is a PlayStation 5 exclusive. It is coming on PC as well, I believe, but it is a console PS5 exclusive, at least timed. As we talked about in some recent videos, it does seem like Final Fantasy 16 is going to come out before Final Fantasy Remake Part 2. So if we use that logic, that as a starting off point, there is that possibility that Part 2 would be PlayStation 5 exclusive. And if it's PlayStation 5 exclusive and saves don't transfer between PS4 and PS5, it would be a completely standalone game. Which I know would upset a lot of players. There's plenty of people out there that want to carry their progress over. I'm kind of on the fence about it. For the most part, I want to start fresh. It'd be different if this was a game that was very, very choice heavy, and everything that you do impacts the world in which we play in, right? If it was like a Mass Effect or something, but it's not. There's very, very little choices, and data transfer would really just be levels and maybe materia and stuff and items. And I don't really care about that. I kind of want to start fresh so I have that grind with Part 2. That's just me, though. And that's why I've said in the past, we've talked about this before, that I feel like what they should do with Part 2, assuming that there is some save transfer or data transfer, is let it be a choice. If you want to carry it over, you can. If you don't want to, you can start fresh. Because I would like to have that choice. Because I might do a save transfer at some point and just kind of play through the game like that. But I would like to be able to start fresh the first time. But I completely understand why people want to carry their save files over. You put a lot of hours into Remake, right? Tens of hours, maybe 100 hours plus into Remake Part 1. You kind of don't want to start over when Part 2 comes out. I get that argument. I get that discussion. And also I understand why people will have that mindset because of the original game being multiple discs and your progress technically carried over from disc to disc. I completely understand that. What I find kind of weird, though, is that this is such a hot topic right now with the save transfers between gens, because that's never really been a thing. For example, when we bought Skyrim Special Edition, when we were buying Skyrim for the 4th or 5th time, we all knew that we were going to start fresh. Nobody expected to be able to carry over your 360 save to the Xbox One version of Skyrim. I don't know why this is really such a hot topic right now. I completely understand not wanting to start over on certain games, right? Some games take a long-ass time to 100%. But I don't understand why this hasn't been a more like pushed conversation for previous generations. Like, why is it so hot right now for the PS5 to have your save transfer, you know? But even if for some reason Part 2 did end up being a PlayStation 5 exclusive, that doesn't mean we couldn't carry our save over. It definitely seems like it's a case-by-case basis. Again, just look at Miles Morales. And speaking of that really quickly before we wrap up the video, I don't understand why they would hold that back. Like, the technology's there, it's possible. They're doing it with Miles Morales, but not Spider-Man PS4. Why do they care, and why not allow their players to do that? They're making the same amount of money whether you're starting the game over fresh or you're carrying your goddamn save over, so why hold that back? And Insomniac Games isn't the only studio out there doing that. Like, Yakuza Like a Dragon is also, you can't transfer your save between PS4 and PS5, but it just doesn't make any sense why any of them are holding that back. Anyway, shout out to Zero Fox Given for giving me the idea for this video the other day, because I've obviously been keeping tabs on this conversation, but I didn't think about it in regards to Remake. And at the end of the day, we can talk about this all the time, we can go in circles, we can rehash this conversation, but we still aren't going to know anything until they fucking tell us. And it's weird that we don't know how many games there's going to be yet, and if there is going to be a save transfer. But anyways, my dudes, that is the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys already want to see more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter, @dashingdavid. I'm on Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description. And in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more. And nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain or leave it like Cobain.